Okay, good morning. So we're up to Siman Kuf Ayin Gimel. We'll try and finish this quickly and then go on to start off Kuf Ayin Dalet today. Kuf Ayin Gimel is Din Mayim Emtzayim, which we know there's something called Mayim Rishonim and there's also Mayim Achronim. Mayim Achronim is you wash your hands at the end of the meal before benching, which will Amitzvah Hashem come to. Then there's Mayim Rishonim is washing your hands for bread before Netilas Yadayim. But there's also something called Mayim Emtzayim, which means washing your hands between courses, in between. So let's take a look. Says the Mechaber, Mayim Emtzayim Rishus. That's why it's less known. It's Rishus. If you want to do it, you can do it. If not, not. V'hani mili bein tavshel letavshel, between dishes. Aval bein tavshel legvina chayva. But if you're going from cheese or from milchik to something else, then it's going to be a chayv. So that's the halach in Yerdeh and Siman Peites. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Rotza Natal, Rotza in a Natal. The Rishus means that if you want to, you can. If not, not. I am b'yerdeh Siman Peites Sif Gimel v'sham nispoeh b'hagah telefi min hageinu yesh little yodov afilu bein tafshel shel gvina letafshel shel basa she'achrov im nogeh bohem b'yodov. If you touch the food, you have some cheese or something, and then you want to have later, you want to have some meat. So then you've got a chiyuv to go wash your hands. Which, just by the way, in footnote 2, he says that if he doesn't touch it with his hands, for example, he eats with a fork or with a spoon or something, then ein et tzorich little yodov, and that's v'chein kosev the pri chodesh, etc. However, noch and lahachim bedavim ein b'tereach, and that's our minhag nowadays. That if you want to be machmir, that even if you use a fork and you haven't actually touched it with your hands, then to still wash your hands if one can. And it's only a rishus if you've got the choice to do it if the dishes are of equal stature. That means they're both parav, they're both meat, they're both milk. So then you've got rishus. If you want to wash your hands, you can. If not, not. Okay, sif base. Bein basel ledogim chayv little. Between meat and fish, you've got a chiyuv to wash your hands. Mishum dekasher ledova acher. Because eating fish and meat together is kosher, is bad, l'dova acher. We'll see what that means. V'chamir is sakantam yisur, and in a way, because it's a sakana, it's a danger, that is more strict sometimes than halacha. That's again Yerdeh in Kuf Tes Zayin. Says the Mishnah Berurah, l'dova acher. Tzoras, what does that mean? It's dangerous for tzoras. V'ayim b'mogen Avram shekosov. The efsha the bizmanenu ein sakana kol kach. It could be that nowadays there's not such danger to become a devarim nishtanu hatvoim, because in a way it's considered nishtanu hateva. The natural body, the physical makeup has changed. Ayin sham. Interestingly, we're talking about washing your hands if you eat, and we're familiar with this. If you have first course on Friday night is fish, so we know you have a Chaim and you have a bit of challah in between before you have your chicken soup or your meat. At a kiddush. At a kiddush as well. Now the shaila is
kiddush is a problem.
Right. Why? But
sushi next to.
Oh, so the shaila is, what about putting it on the same table? What about putting it on the same table? And you see it at kiddushin. You see it the whole time.
Table, it's next to each other.
Right. So you've got fish and you've got meat on the same table. So take a look at footnote 3. V'lahalos dogim and basar shulchan echad, to put fish and meat on the same table. You're not allowed to put meat and milk on the same table. That's not allowed. But fish and meat is not as chamur. And therefore we're less strict about it. So for example, if I want to have fish and you want to have meat sitting at the same table, we're actually not so worried about it. So if you see it at Kedeshim, we're less worried about it. Okay, he continues over there, but that addresses your point, Yossi. Okay. V'ayim b'yerdeh. This is Sif Cotton Dalet. V'ayim b'yerdeh siman kuf tes zayim v'sham nispoeh b'hagod min agenu she'en choshen lazeh. Nowadays we're less worried about this. So that's really what we do nowadays, and namely that if you have fish and then you have meat, what you do is two things. You do kinuach and hadocha. Kinuach means wiping. Wiping means you take some challah or a cracker or something like that, and you eat that, and that sort of wipes the mouth. And then you do hadocha, which means to rinse the mouth. So you could do it with a glass of water, an orange juice, a glass of Coke. The minhag is to do it with the Chaim. Why not? But you need to do both. Kinuach and hadocha. But actually, regarding washing your hands, he says the minhag is not to do that nowadays, and that's ma'asim b'chol yom. Like I say, on Friday nights, you have a gefilte fish, you have some fish, or whatever it is. So then you just do kinuach and hadocha, which means you eat a bit of challah or crackers, and then you have a drink of some sort. Okay, gimel. Kol hadvarim hanoagim ba'achronim. All the halachas that apply for mayim achronim, which Mizshem will get to, Nagim be'emtzayim, they apply also for this halacha of Mayim Emtzayim, which means washing your hands between courses or between dishes. Bein lahakil, bein lahachmir, whether it's strict or lenient. Chutz mehesach hadas, we'll see what that means. It's apart from hesach hadas, shepaisel be'emtzayim, that if you are mesiach das, that you've taken your mind off keeping your hands clean, that puzzles for Emtzayim, because you're in the middle of the meal still, and you want to eat more, and therefore you need to keep your eyes on your hands to make sure they haven't touched something problematic. V'chutz min niguf hayadayim. But Masha'inkin, by the way, my machronim, there's not worried about hesach hadas because you're at the end of the meal. There's no concern. We'll see the Mishnah will explain. For chutz min nigav hayadayim, and except for another difference between my emtzayim and my machronim is, do you have to dry your hands? She'emtzayim srichim nigav krishonim, because just like my rishonim, i.e., washing your hands before the meal, you've got to dry your hands before you touch the food. Well, so too my emtzayim. If you choose to wash your hands during the meal, you need to make sure you dry them. Masha'inkin my machronim. It says the Ramah, v'yesh she'amru she'emtzayim srichim dafka mayim. And a third nafkamina would be that mayim emtzayim would dafka need water. Masha'en came b'achronim, k'delakam and siman kuf pei aleph, there is more flexibility as what you use for mayim achronim. Okay, so let's see the detail in the Mishnah Berurah. Nagim be'emtzayim, hainu, shebein tafshel l'gvina, we're talking between a dish and cheese or something like that. Bein lahokel, hainu, she'ein tzorech netila b'kli. Whether it's a kula, for example, you don't need to use a kli, you just need to rinse your hands, whatever it may be. V'gam rak ad perek hasheni, and only till the knuckles. V'gam ein chatzitza ma'akev b'hem b'diavad. And again, we're makel that we're not so strict about chatzitza and things like that. She'poisel be'emtzayim. Ein hakavona shem hisiach daitel acha shehitel emtzayim nivtal netilas emtzayim. Doesn't mean that if you're mesiach das, that washing has gone. At the end of the day, what difference does it make? You've washed your hands after you ate some cheese, so your hands are clean. So what's the problem? Now the problem is in the Mayim Rishonim. We said previously that if you take your mesiach das, then that could be a problem for Mayim Rishonim. So if you, for example, go for a walk or something, or you're mesiach das from the Suda, then that is a problem for Natilas Yadayim, for Rishonim, for the washing you did for the bread. It's just that we're comparing it to Mayim Achronim, or the Mayim Achronim. With Mayim Achronim, we're not particularly bothered about Hesach Hadas, because you're not planning on eating anymore. And therefore we contrast it to Natila Lemtsoim, the Af Shehitel Lemtsoim, even if you wash your hands during the meal, you don't need to be Mesiach Das from Natila Rishona, Shar Yechel, because you shouldn't be made Mesiach Das because you're going to be eating more. Okay. So again, let's just finish and then I'll summarize. Shem Tsoim Strichim Niguv, because the middle washing needs you got to dry your hands. So for Mayim Rishonim, you got to get the tummy water off. That's why you got to dry your hands. For the Mayim Emtzayim, it's mos. If your hands are wet and you're going to touch the food, then it will make it all soggy, and that's considered mos. That's why you've got to dry your hands. The dafka mayim, and a third nafkamina was dafka you should use water. Shesham mashkin, because other liquids, mitoch atzmon shmenim, they're fatty. Im einem menakim es hashuman v'hamaychel. It's not going to actually do the job and get rid of the fat or the food on your fingers. Masha'enkin ba'achronim, but the contrast, of course, is my machronim she'enim bo'im rak lahava hazuhamim yadayim. The purpose there is to remove any dirt or whatever from your hands, afilu mashkin ma'virin hazuhama, even therefore other liquids will do the job. V'rashal mekel the muta b'sham mashkin, the rashal is mekel and says sham mashkin is okay for emtzayim. Avol become achronim iskimu la'armo, that you should dafka use water. So in short, what have we said? Mayim emtzayim, water, washing your hands between courses is a rishus. Unless, of course, it's gavina, it's cheese, and you should, if you have cheese and then you have gone to something else, then you should make sure your hands are clean. But generally, for Mayim Emtzayim is a rishus. There are three nafkaminas between Mayim Emtzayim and Mayim Achronim. One is Hesach Hadas. We're worried about Hesach Hadas for Mayim Emtzayim if you choose to do it, not because of Emtzayim, but because of Netilas Yadayim for the Rishonim. Then there's Nigav Yadayim. You have to dry your hands. So for Netilas Yadayim Emtzayim, you need to dry your hands, otherwise it's going to make the water soggy, the food soggy. And Dafka Mayim, for Mayim Emtzayim, you should Dafka use water, says the Ramah, and Mayim Achronim, you can use other liquids. Okay, Adkan.